The old oak trees cast long shadows across the cemetery as the sun began its slow descent. Alex walked the familiar gravel path, the sound of small stones crunching beneath his shoes. He carried a bunch of white lilies, her favorites. Sunday visits had become his ritual, as constant as the changing seasons. "Hey there, Alex," called out Ray, the aging groundskeeper who was trimming the hedges near the entrance. "Beautiful evening, isn't it?" Alex nodded and gave a slight wave. "Sure is. How's that knee of yours?" "Can't complain. Well, I could, but..." "Who'd listen?" Ray chuckled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You take care now." As Alex continued down the path, Ray watched him go with a mixture of respect and pity. That boy hadn't missed a Sunday in 3 years. Such devotion to his mother's memory. If only all sons were so faithful. If only he knew the truth. Alex reached the polished gray headstone, simple yet elegant against the backdrop of autumn trees. Eleanor Hayes, it read, along with the dates that framed her life. 56 years that told nothing of who she truly was. The townspeople had their version of Eleanor, the quiet woman who worked at the town library, who smiled at everyone but kept to herself. Only Alex knew the real Eleanor. He placed the flowers in the stone vase and pretended to arrange them with care. An elderly couple walked by, arm in arm, and gave him understanding smiles. Alex waited until they were well out of sight before he reached into his jacket pocket. The small silver key felt cold between his fingers. He glanced around carefully. Ray was now on the far side of the cemetery, and the few other visitors were nowhere near his mother's grave. Perfect. With practiced movements, Alex slid his hand along the base of the headstone until his fingers found the hidden seam. He inserted the key into a hole disguised within the stone pattern and turned it with a gentle click. A small drawer slid open from the base of the headstone. Inside lay dozens of folded papers, each one sealed with a spot of dark blue wax. Alex pulled a fresh note from his pocket and unfolded it one last time to read what he'd written. "Doctor, Wilson has been prescribing himself pain medication for 2 years. His wife thinks he's been sober since his recovery." Alex had discovered this while fixing a leak under the sink in the doctor's home office. The prescription pad and pill bottle had been poorly hidden in the back of a drawer that Alex had needed to empty to access the pipes. The doctor had been called away on an emergency, leaving Alex alone to complete the job. He folded the paper carefully, took out his lighter and a small stick of wax, and sealed the note with his thumbprint pressed into the melted blue pool. He added it to the collection and closed the drawer with a soft push until he heard it lock into place. "Another one for you, Mom," he whispered to the stone. "Your collection keeps growing." His mother had been a collector of secrets her entire life, not the kind people willingly shared, but the ones they desperately tried to hide. As the town librarian, she heard things, people talking in hushed voices between bookshelves, thinking no one could hear. Children confiding in her about their homes. Adults revealing pieces of themselves through the books they chose. "People are like books, Alex," she used to tell him when he was young. "They show you their covers, but the real story is hidden in chapters they never let anyone read." By the time Alex was in high school, he realized his mother knew something about nearly everyone in town. Not ordinary gossip, the deeper truths people buried. Who was drowning in gambling debts? Which marriage was held together only by fear? Whose success was built on someone else's work? "It's not about using what you know against people," she would explain when he asked why she collected these secrets. "It's about understanding the real world, not the fake one people pretend exists. Secrets are the shadow map of our town." Alex picked at a loose thread on his jeans, lost in thought. He hadn't understood back then. Sometimes he'd even been frightened by the way his mother could look at someone and seem to see right through their carefully constructed lives, the way people would sometimes falter mid-sentence when she looked at them too long, as if she could see the lies they were about to tell. It wasn't until after she died that he truly began to understand. He'd found her collection while clearing out her house, a hidden compartment in her bedroom floor, filled with hundreds of neatly written secrets spanning decades. At first he'd been shocked, then intrigued, then something else. Something that made him read every single one, feeling the strange power flow through him with each revelation. Getting late, isn't it? Alex jumped slightly, turning to see Ray standing a few feet away, keys jangling in his hand. "Sorry to startle you," Ray said. "Just making my rounds before closing time." Alex checked his watch, surprised to see it was already past 6. "Yeah, I lost track of time. Thanks, Ray." "No problem. My wife's been gone 8 years now. Still find myself talking to her every day." Ray tapped his chest. "The missing doesn't go away, but it changes shape after a while." Alex nodded, grateful for the groundskeeper's kindness even as he felt a twist of guilt. If Ray knew what was hidden in that headstone. After Ray moved on, Alex stood and brushed grass from his knees. The cemetery would remain open for another hour, but he had one more stop to make before heading home. He walked to the small stone chapel at the edge of the grounds. Sunday evening. Services had ended hours ago, and the building sat empty now, peaceful in the fading light. Alex slipped inside, the heavy wooden door creaking slightly as he entered. The chapel was empty, just as he expected. He sat in the last pew, pulled out his phone, and pretended to check messages while he waited. 20 minutes later, he heard the door open. Tina from the bank entered, looking nervous as she glanced around the empty chapel. Not seeing Alex in the shadows of the back row, she hurried to the front, knelt briefly at the altar, and slipped an envelope beneath the large Bible that lay open on the pulpit. After she left, Alex waited another 10 minutes before approaching the altar. The envelope was addressed simply to Father Michael. The traveling priest who came only every other week wouldn't be back until next Sunday. No one would notice if the envelope disappeared. Alex took it and tucked it inside his jacket. Outside, twilight had settled over the cemetery. The grounds were empty now, and even Ray had gone home, though the gates would remain unlocked until 10, one of the benefits of small-town life. Alex returned to his mother's grave, this time approaching from behind, keeping to the shadows of the trees. He opened the secret drawer again and counted the papers inside. 64 now, with today's additions. Each one a thread in the invisible web that connected everyone in town. His mother had never told him why she collected these secrets or what she did with them. Perhaps it was simply the power of knowing, of seeing the real town beneath the surface everyone pretended was real. Or perhaps there was something more. Alex carefully replaced all the papers and locked the compartment. Standing up, he brushed his hand over the top of the headstone in a gesture that looked like affection to anyone who might be watching. "See you next week," he said quietly, as he walked back through the cemetery gates. Alex thought about the envelope from Tina that sat in his pocket. Tonight he would read it, add whatever secret it contained to his growing knowledge of the town's hidden truths. Tomorrow he would go to his job at the hardware store, smile at customers, make small talk with his co-workers, and listen carefully to what wasn't being said. No one in town gave much thought to Alex Hayes. He was just Eleanor's boy, the quiet one who fixed things, who nodded politely at people in the grocery store. Sometimes they asked how he was doing since his mother passed, but they never waited long enough for a real answer. None of them knew what happened at his mother's tomb each Sunday. None of them realized that when Alex looked at them with those thoughtful eyes, he was seeing the truth behind their carefully crafted lives, and Alex wanted to keep it that way. At least until he figured out why his mother had collected all those secrets in the first place. There had to be a reason, something more than just knowing. Until he discovered that reason, he would continue watching, listening, and adding to the collection hidden in the grave of a woman who had understood that the real story of their town was written not in its history books, but in its secrets. The morning rush at Cooper's Cafe was in full swing. Alex poured coffee into a customer's mug with practiced ease, adding just the right amount of cream without having to ask. After 3 years working the morning shift, he knew most of the regulars' orders by heart. "Thanks, Alex," said Mrs. Chen, warming her hands around the mug. "You're a lifesaver. I was up half the night with my grandson." "How's little Theo doing?" Alex asked, already reaching for a clean rag to wipe down the counter, growing like a weed. "But those teeth coming in keep us all awake." Alex nodded sympathetically while his mind cataloged the information. The Chens had taken in their grandson 6 months ago. though no one mentioned what had happened to Theo's mother. Another small piece to add to his understanding of the town. The bell above the door jingled as Dr. Wilson walked in, dark circles under his eyes. Alex watched him carefully, noting the slight tremor in his hands as he checked his phone. The doctor caught Alex looking and straightened his posture as if suddenly remembering he was in public. "The usual, Doc?" Alex asked, already reaching for a clean mug. "Please, make it extra strong today." As Alex prepared the black coffee with 2 sugars, he wondered if the doctor's hands were shaking from withdrawal or guilt, maybe both. He set the coffee down with a friendly smile that revealed nothing of his thoughts. "Rough night at the hospital?" "Something like that," Dr. Wilson muttered, avoiding eye contact as he took a sip. "Thanks. Working at the busiest cafe in town had advantages Alex hadn't fully appreciated until he started collecting secrets like his mother. People talked freely here, especially in the early mornings when they were still half asleep, or during the lazy afternoon lulls when conversations stretched and wandered. They forgot about the quiet man behind the counter, the one who kept the coffee flowing and the tables clean. They never realized he was listening. "Order up," called Gina from the kitchen. Alex grabbed the plates of eggs and toast and delivered them to the table by the window. 2 businessmen in nearly identical suits lowered their voices as he approached, then resumed their conversation after he left. Something about property values and upcoming developments. Alex made a mental note to swing by their table again in a few minutes. The morning passed in a blur of coffee refills and breakfast orders. By 11, the rush had died down to just a few lingering customers. Alex wiped down the espresso machine, his mind sifting through everything he'd heard that morning, separating ordinary talk from the valuable nuggets that might be worth adding to his collection. Dr. Wilson's drinking problem was already documented in his hidden compartment. But the tension between the 2 businessmen, that was something new. Alex had managed to overhear enough to know they were arguing about buying land on the edge of town before an upcoming council vote. Something about rezoning that would send prices skyrocketing. "Taking your break, Alex?" Gina called from the kitchen. "Yeah, just going to step out for some air." Behind the cafe, Alex leaned against the brick wall and pulled out a small notebook. He jotted down what he'd learned about the land deal, keeping his handwriting small and neat, just like his mother had taught him. Not enough for a full entry in the collection yet, but worth following up on. His phone buzzed with a reminder. Volunteer shift at Pine Hills Retirement Home, 2 p.m. Alex tucked the notebook away and headed back inside to finish his shift. The cafe was nearly empty now, just Mrs. Dunham sipping tea in the corner, lost in a paperback novel. She came in every day around this time, always ordered the same thing, always sat in the same spot. Alex wondered if she was hiding from someone or something in her empty house. Everyone had secrets. Some were just better at hiding them than others. The Pine Hills Retirement Home smelled of disinfectant and overcooked vegetables. Alex signed in at the front desk, where Nurse Kelly greeted him with a tired smile. "They're waiting for you. In the recreation room," she said. "Mr. Finch asked 3 times this morning if it was book day." Alex smiled. "I brought something special for him today." Twice a week for the past year, Alex had volunteered to read to the residents who couldn't hold books anymore or whose eyesight had failed them. His mother had done the same before her illness. He'd started because it seemed like something she would want him to continue, but he'd grown to genuinely enjoy the hours spent reading aloud, watching faces light up with recognition or wonder at a well-told story. It was also a goldmine of secrets. The elderly spoke more freely than anyone else in town. They forgot what they'd already revealed or simply didn't care anymore who knew their truths. Between chapters, they would reminisce, sharing stories about the town's history that never made it into official records, about families and scandals long forgotten by everyone else, about regrets and loves and hatreds that had shaped the community in ways no one realized. Mr. Finch waved eagerly as Alex entered the recreation room. 6 residents were gathered in a loose circle, some in wheelchairs, others in cushioned chairs dragged close to hear better. "There he is," Mr. Finch announced. "I told them you'd come. Didn't I tell you all he'd come?" "You sure did, Harold," said Mrs. Winters, adjusting her hearing aid. Now hush so the boy can read. Alex sat in the empty chair at the center of their circle and pulled out a worn copy of a mystery novel. They were 3 chapters in, and he'd deliberately left them on a cliffhanger last time. Before we start, did everyone have a good weekend? He asked, making eye contact with each resident in turn. This simple question always opened the floodgates. For 15 minutes, they talked over each other, sharing complaints about the food, updates about grandchildren's visits, and gossip about other residents. Alex listened attentively, asking gentle questions that kept the conversation flowing. My son finally sold that piece of land by the creek Mr. Finch mentioned offhandedly. The one his grandfather left him. Alex's ears perked up. The old Miller property? I thought that was protected wetland. Was supposed to be, Mr. Finch nodded. But the council quietly changed something in the zoning laws last month. My Tommy got a real good price for it too. Some developer from the city bought up that whole area. The same area the businessmen had been discussing at the cafe that morning. Alex filed this information away while keeping his face neutral, showing only mild interest. That's wonderful for your son, he said. Now, shall we find out what happens to our detective after he discovered that hidden room? For the next hour, Alex read aloud, pausing occasionally to let them react or speculate about the mystery. His mind, however, kept returning to the land. Deal. The pieces were starting to connect. Council members changing zoning laws quietly. Developers swooping in to buy land before the public knew its value had changed. Who stood to profit? Who had made the decision? As he read, Mrs. Winters dozed off in her chair. Mr. Finch leaned forward with each dramatic passage, completely absorbed in the story. Mrs. Takahashi knitted steadily, her needles clicking in rhythm with the words. Mr. Cooper stared out the window, seeing something far beyond the retirement home's neatly trimmed lawn. When the hour was up, Alex closed the book at another suspenseful moment, prompting groans and pleas for just one more page. Next time, he promised with a smile, something to look forward to. After saying his goodbyes, Alex stopped by Nurse Kelly's station. Would you mind if I visit Mrs. Blackwood today? I know she doesn't come to the reading group anymore. Kelly's expression softened. That's thoughtful of you. She's having a good day today. Room 217, you remember? Alex nodded and made his way down the quiet hallway. Room 217's door was partially open. He knocked gently before entering. Mrs. Blackwood sat in a wheelchair by the window, her white hair neatly combed, a blanket over her lap despite the warm day. At 93, she was the oldest resident of Pine Hills and the only person still living who had been born and raised in the town before the highway came through and changed everything. Mrs. Blackwood, it's Alex, Eleanor's son. She turned slowly, her cloudy eyes searching for his face. Eleanor's boy, come sit with me. Alex pulled up a chair beside her. Unlike his readings in the recreation room, these visits had a different purpose. Mrs. Blackwood had known his mother well, perhaps better than anyone, and in her lucid moments she sometimes revealed things about Eleanor Hayes that Alex had never known. I brought you something, he said, placing a small lavender sachet in her gnarled hands. From my garden. Mom always said you loved the smell. Mrs. Blackwood lifted it to her nose and inhaled deeply. For a moment her eyes cleared. Your mother understood the power of knowing things, she said abruptly, just like her grandmother before her. Alex leaned forward slightly. What kind of things, Mrs. Blackwood? The old woman's fingers worried at the sachet. This town has always had its secrets, deep ones. Your mother was a keeper of them. Did she tell you why? No, Alex admitted. She never explained. I found her collection after she died. Mrs. Blackwood nodded slowly. And now you're collecting them too. I've heard things. People talk, even about quiet young men like you. Alex felt a chill. No one was supposed to know about his collection. Had he been careless? What else did my mother tell you? He asked carefully. The old woman's gaze drifted back to the window. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. Others need to be kept safe until the right time. Her voice trailed off, and Alex could see he was losing her to confusion again. "Mrs. Blackwood?" "Your mother was protecting them," she whispered. "All of them, even the ones who deserved to be exposed." Then she blinked and the clarity was gone from her eyes. "Is it time for dinner? I'm not very hungry today." Alex sat with her a while longer, but Mrs. Blackwood didn't return to the topic. Eventually, he said his goodbyes and headed home, his mind churning with questions. What had his mother been protecting the town from? And who had she been protecting them from? That night, as he prepared his notes from the day to add to the collection on Sunday, Alex wondered if he was truly continuing his mother's work, or if he was missing some vital piece of the puzzle that would explain why Eleanor Hayes had spent her life gathering the town's darkest secrets and taking them to her grave. Rain pounded against the windows of Alex's small apartment as he sorted through his notes from the week. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and occasional flashes of lightning illuminated his living room in brief, stark bursts of light. The weather forecast had predicted only light showers, but the sky had opened up an hour ago with unexpected fury. On his kitchen table, Alex had arranged his notebook, several loose scraps of paper with hastily scribbled observations, and the unopened envelope he'd taken from the chapel last Sunday, the one Tina from the bank had left. He'd been saving it, waiting for the right moment when he could give it his full attention. Tonight felt like that moment. Alex made himself a cup of tea and settled into his chair. The envelope wasn't sealed, just the flap tucked in. He carefully opened it and pulled out a single sheet of paper, folded in thirds. "Father Michael," it began, "I need to confess something I can't say in person." Alex read slowly, taking in every word of Tina's confession. She had been secretly transferring small amounts of money, never more than $50 at a time, from dormant accounts at the bank to a special fund. A fund for her brother who had been released from prison 6 months ago and couldn't find work because of his record. "I know it's wrong," she had written. "I know it's stealing. But these accounts have been untouched for years and my brother has a little girl who needs food and clothes. I promise I'll pay it all back someday." Alex set the letter down, thinking. This wasn't just a personal secret. This was a crime. Small, perhaps, compared to what others in town had done, but still a crime. His mother had collected many secrets over the years, but had she ever come across something like this? Something that was actively causing harm? What would she have done? The question troubled him as he added Tina's confession to his notes. Sunday was 2 days away. He would have to decide by then whether this secret belonged in the collection or if it required some other action. Lightning flashed again, closer this time, and the lights in his apartment flickered. Alex glanced out the window, at the sheets of rain. The storm had turned the early evening dark as night. As he watched, a figure darted across the street below, hunched against the downpour, heading toward the entrance of his building. Probably one of his neighbors caught in the storm, Alex thought. He turned back to his notes, organizing them by category: financial secrets, relationship secrets, past mistakes. The system his mother had used in her own collection. A sharp knock at his door made him jump. Alex wasn't expecting anyone, especially not on a night like this. He quickly gathered his notes and slid them into a drawer before approaching the door cautiously. "Who is it?" he called. "I'm looking for Alex Hayes." A woman's voice, young, unfamiliar. "Please, I need to talk to you." Alex hesitated, then opened, the door just enough to see who was there. A young woman stood in the hallway, her dark hair plastered to her head from the rain, her jacket soaked through. She looked to be in her early 20s, with intense eyes that locked onto his immediately. "Are you Alex?" she asked. "Yes," he replied warily. "Can I help you?" "My name is Lily Carter," she said, "and I think we need to talk about what you've been doing at your mother's grave." Alex felt the blood drain from his face. For a moment, he considered shutting the door, denying everything. Instead, he found himself stepping back, opening the door wider. "You'd better come in." Lily entered, leaving a trail of water on his floor. She stood awkwardly in the middle of his living room, shivering slightly from the wet clothes. "Let me get you a towel," Alex said automatically, his mind racing. How did she know? Had someone seen him? Ray, perhaps? Or had he been followed? He returned with a clean towel and handed it to her. "How do you know about my mother's grave?" he asked bluntly. Lily dried her hair and face before answering. "I saw you last Sunday. I was visiting my grandfather's grave when I noticed you waiting for everyone to leave. I got curious, so I hid behind the Thompson mausoleum and watched." She met his eyes directly. "I saw you open that hidden compartment. I saw the papers inside." Alex sat down heavily on his couch. His secret, his mother's secret, exposed after all this time by a random cemetery visitor. "What do you want?" he asked. "Money? Is this blackmail?" Lily looked genuinely surprised. "No, nothing like that. I want—" She hesitated, twisting the damp towel between her hands. "I want to know if you have anything about my family in there. About the Carters." Alex studied her face. There was no hostility there, just an intense need that he couldn't quite interpret. "Why would I have anything about your family?" "Because your mother knew everything about everyone in this town," Lily said. "My dad used to say Eleanor Hayes could see right through a person to all their secrets. And if what I saw at the cemetery is what I think it is, you've been collecting secrets just like she did." Alex said nothing, but his silence was confirmation enough. Lily took a deep breath. "There's something I need to know about my family. Something no one will talk about. It happened 17 years ago before I was born. It has to do with my Aunt Kate." The name stirred something in Alex's memory. Kate Carter. His mother had mentioned that name once or twice, always in hushed tones. "Hushed. I don't know if I have anything about your aunt," he said carefully. "And even if I did, I can't just share the contents of my collection. That's not how it works." "How does it work then?" Lily challenged. "What's the point of gathering all those secrets if you don't use them for anything?" The question hit Alex hard because it was the same one he'd been asking himself for 3 years. What was the purpose of it all? His mother must have had a reason beyond simply knowing. Lightning flashed again, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. The lights went out, plunging the apartment into darkness. "Perfect," Lily muttered. "Hold on." Alex fumbled, his way to the kitchen drawer where he kept emergency candles. The familiar motion helped calm his racing thoughts. He lit several candles and placed them around the living room, casting the space in a warm, flickering glow. In the candlelight, Lily looked younger, more vulnerable. She had stopped shivering but still clutched the towel like a shield. "Look," Alex said, sitting down across from her. "I don't know what you're hoping to find, but these secrets aren't mine to share. They were entrusted to my mother, or discovered by her. But you don't even know why she collected them," Lily countered. "You're just doing it because she did." Her words stung because they contained truth. "I'm trying to understand her reasons," he defended. "Mrs. Blackwood said my mother was protecting people." "Mrs. Blackwood at Pine Hills?" Lily asked. "My mom used to work there as a nurse. She said the old woman has dementia. Half the time she doesn't know what year it is." "She has lucid moments," Alex insisted. "And in those moments she seems to know things about my mother that even I didn't know." Lily was quiet for a moment, considering. "If your mother was protecting people, maybe she was protecting my family too. Maybe that's why no one will tell me what happened to Aunt Kate." Alex rubbed his temples, feeling a headache forming. The storm continued to rage outside, and rain lashed against the windows in waves. "What exactly are you trying to find out about your aunt?" he asked, finally. Lily set the towel aside and leaned forward. "She disappeared the summer she turned 18. Everyone says she ran away to the city, but I found an old photo album in our attic last month. There were pictures of her with your mother." "With my mother?" Alex was genuinely surprised. His mother had never mentioned being friends with a Kate Carter. They were standing in front of the old mill, the one that burned down. There were other people too, but those photos had been torn. Just your mom and my aunt remained intact. Lily pulled out her phone. "I took pictures of them. Look," she showed him the screen. The photo was faded and slightly blurry, but there was no mistaking his mother. younger with longer hair but definitely Eleanor Hayes. Beside her stood a pretty blonde girl with a carefree smile. They had their arms around each other's shoulders, looking for all the world like best friends. I never knew they were friends, Alex said honestly. No one ever mentioned it to me either. When I asked my parents about the photos, they got angry, told me to leave the past alone. Lily's voice wavered slightly. But I can't. Something happened to her and it's connected to your mother somehow. Alex stood and paced the small living room, the candle flames dancing with his movement. Part of him wanted to tell Lily to leave, to take her questions elsewhere. But another part, the part that had been searching for meaning in his mother's collection, was intrigued. The old mill, he said slowly. That's where they're planning to build the new development, the land that was just rezoned. Lily nodded. My dad was furious when he heard about it. It's the first time I've ever seen him stand up at a town meeting. He said the land should never be disturbed. Another piece of the puzzle. Alex thought about the businessmen at the cafe, about Mr. Finch's son selling his property, about the council quietly changing zoning laws. I need to check something, he said abruptly. Wait here. He went to his bedroom and opened the closet. In the back, behind his winter coats, was a small fireproof safe. Alex dialed the combination, his mother's birth date, and opened it. Inside was a leather-bound journal, the first piece of his mother's collection he'd discovered after her death. He brought it back to the living room where Lily waited expectantly. This is my mother's journal from 20 years ago, he explained. I've read it before, but I wasn't looking for anything specific then. If she knew your aunt, if something happened at the old mill, it might be in here. He opened the journal carefully, its pages brittle with age. His mother's elegant handwriting filled each page, interspersed with pressed flowers, ticket stubs, and other mementos of her life. Help me look, he said, handing Lily half the journal. We're looking for any mention of Kate Carter or the old mill. As the storm raged outside and candles flickered around them, two strangers began searching through the past, unaware that by morning, nothing in their lives would be the same again. Morning light filtered through Alex's living room blinds, casting thin golden stripes across the coffee table. Pages from Eleanor's journal lay scattered everywhere, alongside empty mugs and a plate of half-eaten sandwiches. The storm had passed sometime after midnight, but neither Alex nor Lily had noticed, too absorbed in their search through Eleanor's writings. Alex rubbed his tired eyes and stretched. He dozed off on the couch while reading, the journal open, on his chest. Across from him, Lily was curled up in the armchair, her head resting on her arm, still clutching several loose pages. He checked his watch. 6:37 a.m. They'd been at it all night. Carefully, so as not to wake Lily, Alex gathered the pages they'd set aside, the ones containing any mention of Kate Carter or the mill. There weren't many, just 7 pages in total. Eleanor had been selective about what she recorded in her journal, often writing in a kind of personal shorthand that made it difficult to understand the full context. The earliest entry was from June 1998. Met KC at the library today. She's home from college for the summer. Troubled, says things aren't right at the mill, asked for my help. Not sure what I can do, but I promised to look into it. The next mention came 2 weeks later. KC was right. Something strange happening at the mill. Mr. B and the others think no one notices their late meetings, but the town librarian sees who checks out books on local history and property laws. We'll need to be careful going forward. And then, most disturbing, from August of that same summer, KC went too far. Confronted them directly. Foolish girl. She doesn't understand the town depends on their silence. Had to intervene. The collection will grow significantly after tonight. 7 new entries, the price of peace. After that, no more mentions of Kate. As if she'd simply vanished from Eleanor's life. Alex gently shook Lily awake. Hey, found something. Lily blinked groggily, then sat up straight when she remembered where she was. What time is it? Almost 7. Look at these. He handed her the pages they'd marked. She read quickly, her expression growing more intense with each entry. She knew, Lily whispered. Your mother knew what happened to Kate. Maybe, Alex cautioned. These entries are pretty vague. But it's clear they knew each other and there was something going on at the mill. The collection will grow significantly, Lily quoted. That's talking about her secrets, right? The ones you're still collecting? Alex nodded slowly. 7 new entries, she wrote. 7 secrets. Whatever happened that night, 7 people were involved, and my mother collected their secrets. But why? Was she blackmailing them? No, Alex said firmly. My mother wasn't like that. She called in the price of peace. I think she was protecting people. Maybe even protecting the town, like Mrs. Blackwood said. Lily stood up and paced the small living room, energy returning despite her lack of sleep. Protecting them from what? And what happened to Kate? If your mother knew, then the answer might be in your collection. In those papers at the cemetery. Alex ran a hand through his hair, conflicted. The collection was private, sacred almost. But Lily's determination to find out what happened to her aunt resonated with his own need to understand his mother's purpose. Today's Saturday, he said finally. We'll go to the cemetery tomorrow, my usual time. If there's anything about Kate, or the mill in the collection, we'll find it. Lily looked like she wanted to argue, to push for immediate action, but she held back. Okay, tomorrow. Alex gathered the journal pages, carefully returning them to order. In the meantime, we should learn more about what was happening at the mill back then, and about this new development that's planned for the site. I can ask my dad, Lily offered, then immediately frowned. No, he'd just shut down again. He never talks about that time. We need to be careful who we ask, Alex agreed. If my mother was right, there are 7 people in town who have something to hide about that place. What about your work? Don't you hear things at the cafe? Alex thought about the businessmen he'd overheard. Some, but not enough. Wait. An idea struck him. The town library. My mother was the librarian then. She wrote that she noticed people checking out books on local history and property laws. So libraries keep records. And my friend Tanya works there now. She could help us look through the archives from that time without asking too many questions. Lily's face brightened. That could work. When does the library open? 9. We have time to clean up and get some real breakfast first. Alex began collecting the empty mugs. There's a shower down the hall if you want to use it. I can lend you a clean shirt. As Lily disappeared into the bathroom, Alex thought about what they'd discovered so far. His mother and Kate Carter, the mill, 7 secrets collected in a single night. Something that needed to be protected or someone who needed to be silenced. For the first time since finding his mother's collection, Alex felt like he might be close to understanding its true purpose. The town library was housed in a century-old building of red brick and white columns. Inside, the smell of books and polish created a familiar, comforting atmosphere. Alex had spent countless hours here as a child, sitting quietly while his mother worked. Tanya looked up from the front desk as they entered, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of Alex with a young woman she didn't recognize. Alex, twice in 1 month. I'm shocked, she teased. Usually I only see you when you need to fix your leaky faucet. Hi, Tanya. This is Lily. We're working on a research project together. The half-truth came easily. We need to look at some old records if that's okay. Tanya's curiosity was evident, but she didn't pry. What kind of records? Library checkout logs from 1998, especially summer months, and any town records about the old mill from that time. The mill? Tanya's smile faded slightly. That's an odd coincidence. We've had 3 other people asking about the mill records this week, with all this talk about the new development. Alex kept his expression neutral. Oh? Anyone we know? Just Mr. Byrne from the council, Mr. Parks the developer, and old Mr. Chen. They were particularly interested in the original property surveys. Tanya lowered her voice. Between us, they didn't look too happy with what they found. Alex and Lily exchanged glances. Chen, the same Mr. Chen from the hardware store who was skimming money? And Byrne, wasn't he one of the businessmen Alex had overheard at the cafe? We'll try not to get in their way, Alex said. We're more interested in the social history of the mill, for a community project. Tanya didn't look entirely convinced, but gestured toward the back of the library. Archives are in the basement, you know where. Checkout logs are in the filing. Cabinets by year. Town records are on the shelves along the east wall. Need help finding anything? We'll manage, thanks. The basement archive was cool and dry, with fluorescent lights that hummed overhead. Filing cabinets lined one wall, while metal shelving units filled the rest of the space, all laden with boxes and binders of town records. Where do we start? Lily asked, looking overwhelmed. Checkout logs first, Alex decided. My mother specifically mentioned people researching local history and property laws. They found the 1998 records easily enough. 4 thick binders organized by quarter. Alex took April-June, and Lily took July-September. For nearly an hour, they pored over the handwritten entries looking for patterns. Look at this, Lily said finally, pointing to a page in her binder. June 12th, Thomas Chen checked out Property Law of New England. Then the next day, William Byrne checked out Environmental Regulations and Land Development. Then Peter Parks. With mining rights and land ownership, Alex leaned over to see. And they all returned their books within days of each other. That's the connection, Chen, Byrne, and Parks. There's more. Lily flipped to the next page. Robert Dunham, Water Rights and Property Boundaries. Gregory Thompson, Legal Liability. In industrial accidents. That's 5, Alex counted. My mother wrote about 7 people. They continued searching, eventually finding 2 more names, Frank Wilson, Dr. Wilson's father, who had been the town doctor before his son, had checked out confidentiality and medical ethics, and Mayor Joseph Carter had checked out town governance and emergency powers. Lily's finger lingered on the last name. Carter. That's my grandfather. He was mayor back then. Alex wrote down all 7 names on a notepad. So we have the hardware store owner, a council member, a developer, the mill owner, the town doctor, and the mayor, all researching aspects of property law, liability, and governance around the same time that summer, and all connected to the mill somehow, Lily added. But what does it mean? I don't know yet, Alex admitted. Let's check the town records about the mill. The town records were less organized than the library logs, but they eventually found a box labeled Mill Operations and Safety Reports 1990-2000. Inside were inspection reports, employment records, and correspondence between the mill management and town officials. Most of it seemed routine, until Lily pulled out a thin folder, marked Confidential Water Testing Results. This is interesting, she said, scanning the document inside. It's a water quality report from a private lab in the city, dated May 1998. They found high levels of chemicals in the stream behind the mill. Dangerous levels. She flipped to the next page. And here's a handwritten note. Second opinion confirms. Must address immediately. Dr. W. Dr. Wilson, Alex guessed. Or his father. But look at this. Lily pointed to another handwritten note at the bottom of the page. It says, report sealed by executive order of mayor. Alternative testing to be arranged. Your grandfather buried the report, Alex said quietly. Lily's face paled. They were poisoning the water, and they covered it up. Alex was about to respond when they heard footsteps on the stairs. They quickly returned the folder to its box and moved to a different shelf, pretending to examine town budget reports as Tanya appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Finding everything okay? She asked. Yes, thanks, Alex replied, trying to look casual. Just going through old budgets. Fascinating stuff, Tanya nodded, though she looked slightly suspicious. Well, just to let you know, the library closes early today. You have about another hour. After she left, Lily whispered, we need to photograph these documents before we go. They worked quickly, using their phones to capture images of the water testing reports, relevant checkout logs, and anything else that seemed connected to the mill or the 7 names on their list. As they finished, Alex noticed a small envelope, tucked into the back of the water testing folder. Inside was a single photograph, a group of people standing in front of the mill, 7 men, including those whose names they'd found in the checkout logs. And standing slightly apart from the group, two young women. "That's Kate," Lily whispered, pointing to the blonde. "And that's your mother beside her." Alex studied the photo. His mother looked young, determined. Kate had the same intense expression that Lily sometimes showed. They looked like allies against the 7 men who stood stiffly in business attire. What were they fighting about, Lily wondered. Just the water pollution? "I don't know," Alex said, "but whatever it was, it led to 7 secrets in my mother's collection, and your aunt's disappearance." They photographed the picture and carefully returned everything to its proper place. As they climbed the stairs back to the main floor, Alex felt a growing sense of unease. They were pulling at threads that had been carefully tucked away for decades. What would unravel when they tugged hard enough? "Tomorrow," he said quietly to Lily as they exited the library. "We'll check the collection. Tomorrow. If my mother gathered secrets from all 7 of these men that night, those secrets might tell us what really happened." "And what happened to Kate?" Lily added, her voice a mixture of hope and fear. Neither of them noticed the car parked across the street, or the man watching them through tinted windows, his cell phone pressed to his ear. Sunday arrived with a sky so clear and blue it seemed almost artificial after the recent storm. Alex arrived at the cemetery earlier than usual, walking briskly past the entrance where Ray was trimming the hedges. "Morning, Alex," Ray called out, wiping sweat from his brow despite the early hour. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Alex forced a smile and waved. He felt guilty for not stopping to chat as he normally would, but today wasn't normal. Nothing had been normal since Lily Carter had knocked on his door during the storm. He reached his mother's grave and placed a small bunch of wildflowers in the vase, maintaining appearances, keeping to his routine in case anyone was watching. And someone might be watching. The mysterious car that had followed them from the library yesterday had left him on edge. Alex glanced at his watch. Lily was late. They'd agreed to meet at 9, early enough that the cemetery would be mostly empty, but not so early as to seem suspicious. It was now 9:20 and there was no sign of her. Had she changed her mind? Or had something happened to her? He pulled out his phone to check for messages, but the screen showed nothing from Lily. As he was about to call her, movement caught his eye. Someone approaching from the north side of the cemetery, coming through the trees rather than along the paths. Lily emerged from between 2 tall pines, looking over her shoulder before hurrying to Alex's side. "Sorry I'm late," she whispered. "Someone was parked outside my apartment this morning. Dark blue sedan, tinted windows, same car from yesterday." Alex felt a chill. "Did they follow you here?" "I don't think so. I went out the back and took a roundabout way." Lily looked around nervously. "Are we alone?" Alex scanned the cemetery. There were a few visitors scattered across the grounds, but none nearby. Ray had moved to the far side, working on a broken sprinkler. "As alone as we're going to get. Let's do this quickly." He knelt beside his mother's headstone, positioning himself to block the view from the main path. The small silver key felt heavy in his hand as he slid it into the hidden lock and turned it. The drawer opened with a soft click. The folded papers inside were exactly as he'd left them last Sunday. Dozens of secrets collected over 3 years, each one sealed with blue wax and his thumbprint. But he wasn't interested in his own collection today. "Help me look," he said to Lily. "We need papers dated August 1998 with red wax seals. Those would be my mother's original collection." They worked quickly, carefully removing papers and sorting them by date and seal color. Near the bottom of the drawer, Alex found what they were looking for, a bundle of 7 papers tied together with a faded red ribbon, each sealed with dark red wax. "This is it," he said, his voice hushed with reverence and apprehension. "The 7 secrets from that night." Lily reached for them eagerly, but Alex held them back. "We shouldn't read them here. It's too exposed." "Then where? My place might be watched, and yours could be too." Alex thought for a moment. "The chapel. It should be empty until the afternoon service." After returning the rest of the collection to the drawer and locking it, They made their way separately to the small stone chapel at the edge of the cemetery grounds. As Alex had predicted, it was empty, the morning sunlight streaming through, stained glass windows and painting the wooden pews with splashes of color. They sat in the last row, hidden in shadow, and Alex carefully untied the ribbon binding the 7 papers. "These secrets have been locked away for 20 years, he said, softly. "Whatever we find might change everything about the town, about our families." Lily nodded, her expression solemn. "I need to know what happened to Kate, no matter what." Alex broke the seal on the first paper and unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was his mother's, elegant and precise. "From Thomas Chen, hardware store owner," he read aloud. "I falsified the building safety reports for the mill from 1995-1998, accepting bribes to overlook structural issues and chemical storage violations." The second paper, "From William Byrne, Town Council. I redirected town funds meant for water treatment to the mill expansion project, knowing the current filtration system was inadequate for the increased chemical runoff." The third, "From Peter Parks, developer. I provided falsified environmental impact statements to state officials, hiding evidence of soil contamination from chemical leakage at the mill site." With each revelation, the picture became clearer. The fourth paper detailed how Robert Dunham, the mill owner, had knowingly dumped industrial waste into the stream that fed into the town's water supply. The fifth explained how Gregory Thompson, the mill's lawyer, had threatened and paid off workers who had become sick from chemical exposure. The sixth, from Dr. Frank Wilson, was perhaps the most disturbing. "I diagnosed 3 children with rare infections rather than chemical poisoning, despite knowing the true cause of their illnesses. I destroyed blood test results that would have proven the connection to the mill's water contamination." Lily's hands shook as Alex handed her the final paper, the one bearing her grandfather's name. "From Mayor Joseph Carter," she read, her voice barely above a whisper. "I ordered the police to detain my daughter Catherine when she threatened to take evidence of the mill's violations to state authorities. I authorized the use of force if necessary to prevent her from leaving town with the documents." Lily looked up, her eyes wide with shock. "My grandfather had his own daughter detained to protect the mill." "That explains why Kate disappeared," Alex said, "but not what happened to her afterward." Lily turned the paper over, and they saw additional writing on the back, not a confession, but a note in Eleanor's handwriting. "Catherine Carter left town at midnight, August 17, 1998, with my help. She carries with her copies of all evidence, to be released if any harm comes to her or to me, or if the contamination continues. The 7 involved have provided signed confessions as insurance of their cooperation. The mill will close within 6 months, citing financial difficulties. The contaminated areas will be sealed and marked as unstable ground, unsafe for development. This is the price of their freedom and the town's peace." They sat in stunned silence as the implications settled over them. "She's alive," Lily whispered. "Finally. Kate is alive somewhere. And my mother helped her escape," Alex added. "She didn't just collect secrets. She used them to force these men to close the mill and contain the contamination. But now they're planning to develop that land," Lily said, the realization dawning in her eyes. "They're going to disturb the sealed contamination. That's why my father was so upset at the town meeting." Alex nodded slowly. "Your father knows. He must have known all along what happened, but was sworn to secrecy." "We have to stop the development," Lily said urgently. "These papers, they're proof of what happened." "They're 20-year-old confessions," Alex cautioned. "I don't know if they'd hold up legally, and exposing them would mean exposing everything, including what your grandfather did." A sound at the chapel door made them both freeze. Alex quickly gathered the papers, stuffing them inside his jacket as the door creaked open. Ray, the groundskeeper, stood in the doorway, his expression grim. Behind him were 3 men: William Byrne, now the head of the town council, Thomas Chen, the hardware store owner, and a third man they recognized from the photograph as Peter Parks, the developer. "There they are," Byrne said coldly. "With Eleanor's papers, just like you said?" Ray looked at Alex apologetically. "I'm sorry, son. I've known about that compartment for years. Your mother made me promise to watch over it, make sure no one tampered with it. I thought you were just, I don't know, continuing her tradition. But when Mr. Burns said you were digging into things best left buried, what did they pay you, Ray? Alex asked quietly. The old man couldn't meet his eyes. This doesn't concern either of you, Burns said, stepping forward. Those papers are private property. Hand them over and we can all forget this unfortunate misunderstanding. Alex felt Lily tense beside him. These aren't just papers, she said, her voice stronger than he expected. They're confessions about what you did to the mill, to the water supply, about what you did to my Aunt Kate. Catherine Carter made wild accusations without evidence, Parks said dismissively. Eleanor Hayes helped her leave town, which was for the best. Ancient history now. The land has been tested and cleared for development. By who? Alex challenged. The same people who falsified the reports 20 years ago? Burns' face hardened. You have no idea what you're meddling with. The development project means jobs, tax revenue, growth. The town needs this. The town needs to know the truth, Lily countered. The truth? Chen laughed bitterly. The truth is that your aunt was going to destroy this town over a minor contamination issue that was already being addressed. The truth is that your precious grandmother Eleanor blackmailed us, forced the mill to close, cost dozens of people their livelihoods. She made you take responsibility, Alex corrected. She made you contain the poison you were dumping into the water. Enough, Burns snapped. The papers. Now. Alex felt the weight of the confessions inside his jacket. His mother had collected these secrets, used them to protect the town, and then kept them safe for 20 years. What would she want him to do now? Eleanor kept your secrets all these years, he said slowly. As long as you kept your end of the bargain. But now you're breaking that bargain. Times change, Park said. Those chemicals have broken down long ago. The land is valuable. We've all waited long enough. Lily stood suddenly. I want to talk to my father. Before anything else happens, I want to hear his side. The three men exchanged glances. Finally, Byrne nodded. Fine, we'll all go together to see Thomas Carter. He can explain why this development needs to proceed, regardless of the past. As they left the chapel, Alex slipped one of the papers, the note about Kate's escape, into Lily's hand. She tucked it into her pocket without the men noticing. Whatever happened next, the truth wouldn't stay buried this time. 2 months later, Alex stood beside his mother's grave, placing fresh flowers in the vase. The hidden compartment remained, but it was empty now. All the secrets had been brought into the light. The development project had been canceled after independent testing confirmed lingering contamination at the old mill site. Byrne had resigned from the town council. Chen had sold his hardware store and moved away. Several others implicated in the original cover-up faced legal consequences, and Catherine Carter had come home, summoned by the message Lily had sent to the email address found in Eleanor's personal effects, an address Eleanor had kept active for 20 years just in case. I think she would be proud, Lily said, coming to stand beside Alex. Your mother. She protected the town in her way, and you finished what she started. Alex nodded, running his fingers over the smooth surface of the headstone. She understood. The power of secrets, not just in keeping them, but in knowing when to reveal them. The compartment in the grave remained as a reminder, but Alex no longer collected the town's secrets. Instead, he and Lily had started a community environmental monitoring program, testing the water and soil regularly, and publishing the results for all to see. Some secrets they had learned were too dangerous to keep. Some truths needed to be spoken. And sometimes the most important legacy wasn't what was buried, but what was brought into the light.